Good afternoon. So, you have had 2 classes already on strategic management taken by Professor De, and this is my first class. So, as I was saying a little earlier, we have divided the course into 2 parts. The first part the Professor De is covering, and that is about the strategic planning aspect. Alright? And the second part I am going to cover about the strategic implementation of the strategic plan. So, both go hand in hand. Without an implementation, the best of strategic plans are no good. They remain on paper, and the converse also. You know, if you have a very good implementing team, but the plan is shabby, then you end up, okay, in a soup. You don't achieve much. So, both are very important, okay. But by and large, what we have seen, companies abroad as well as in India, they are rather good at planning part of it, because the planning part is something which is more within your control. You know, it's application of mind, collection of data and so on, which is within your control. But implementation part is something which is not so much within your control. Why? Because planning is done by an individual or a small group or task force, few people. But when you implement organization wise, how many people are involved? Probably the whole organization is involved in various layers, structured into various kind of departments and groups and so on, maybe geographically dispersed. So, to implement the plan is really tough, and that is what separates the men from the boys in the management pool. Okay. Now, having said that, before I proceed with the implementation part, I would also like to give you a little bit of overview on what is the strategy planning part, because otherwise it becomes difficult to get into implementation unless you build a little framework yourself about the planning. So, in order for me to give you a little bit of overview, and in order to avoid duplication, I would like one person from the left of the class to volunteer to tell me what has been covered by Professor De in the first 2 lectures, and then one person from the right hand side tell me what has been covered in the second lecture, first lecture, second lecture. Alright, who will volunteer? Who will volunteer? Because if you don't volunteer, I will pick a volunteer. Huh? Yes? Who is that lounging there in the chair out there? He is looking back now. Do you remember? Did you attend that class? No? Alright. Then you are excused. You didn't attend. He is looking the other side. Huh? Who will volunteer? You are the chosen leader, it seems, huh? Kalyan? Or are they making use of you? Because you are older and so on. Okay, tell me what he covered in the first class.
It's basically about ideas. So it's
Okay.
basically about ideas how the company is going to do it in the future. So basically there are 2 ways of taking the company forward. Once a company matures, once a market matures basically, then the scope of business in that market decreases. So you have to go for diversification. So that is the prime need for going for a strategic decision, saying that maturing of the market. There are 2 ways in it.
So, basically what you are saying is strategy is an idea, and it has to keep tuned with the environment which you are calling the market. Okay? And what is the object, did you say, of the idea? The object. What is the object? Say I don't make, I am a MD of a company, and I say I don't believe in this strategic plan and strategic management and all that. Any harm coming to the company? No harm. You can carry on regardless, and
You can carry on the short run, but in the long run you will start facing problems.
you will face problems. Because strategy is about
Because it's about having a long-term vision.
a long range. That is eyes on the horizon. Alright? One eye at least. And the other eye where? On the bottom line. Bottom line. Yeah, in America every quarter, even in India now. Did you know that we have to publish organizations Under Companies Act, every quarter, audited results. So you have to keep your eye on the bottom line. Okay. So long range. What is short range? Has it got a name also? Tactics. Okay. So in military terms, you may also call it. Who is a military family man here? Huh? Absent? Shopping. Tell me. Huh? In military terms, a strategy is about war, conducting a war, and tactics about battles, encounters. Okay, right. Both are very important. There is a debate about which is more important, but the debate isn't resolved yet. I think in different situations, different ones are important. So it's long range. It's about the market. It's a change of direction which is necessitated because the market changes. Okay. So this is one part of it. All right. Any other thing which was covered?
The next class was on the perspective, the top-down and the bottom-up perspective. Like, say when it comes to top-down perspective, it flows from the top management and down all the way to the execution level.
Okay.
Whereas from the bottom-up perspective, you work down from the nitty-gritty and build up a total plan and focus yourself to achieve that.
Okay.
So
Right.
those were the two aspects we just briefly glanced at.
Good. So now I am little clear of what has been covered. But since it has been a long day, let's talk a little about the philosophy. There is a philosophic framework, and it dates back 100 years. And central theme here, the philosophy is competition is what drives strategy. If you had the utopian world, there isn't any competition, all right, and you are the only person operating in the marketplace, and you call all the shots, then as likely as not, there would be no need for strategizing. Okay. Now in Russia, there was Professor G.F. Gauss, all right, who enunciated a principle called the principle of competitive exclusion. He carried out a series of experiments, and he came to the conclusion no two species can coexist that make their living in the identical way. Identical. They make their living by that. It's a life and death issue for them. But same way, if the species make their living in the same way, they cannot coexist together. One will displace the other. And some of the experiments he did, he was known as the father of mathematical biology. Mathematical biology. Okay. What he did is a very primitive form of life, protozoa. He put protozoa, two species of protozoa, with enough resources into a bottle. What resources? For existing, feeding, nutrients, and so on. And with this series of experiments, he found a curious pattern which emerged. If you had protozoans of the same species, okay, they couldn't survive, both of them. One died and the other survived. But if you had different species, then they could survive. This is the sum and substance of what he found out. And that is why he enunciated the principle of competitive exclusion. Now, from that, some insights emerged which are applicable to the marketplace also. Okay. All right. We have resources on the one hand, and we have organisms. Conceptually, an organization in the marketplace can be viewed as an organism also, okay, because it requires resources, it requires inputs, all right, and it has output. Output is it grows, it prospers, all right. Now organisms also, they mutate, they change, and they grow, okay. This is one species of organism, same species, organism O and O, all right. They have adequate they have adequate resources. All right? This is another species. But again the same pair of species. All right? When these adequate resources become inadequate, all right, you will find that out of these two, which are of the same species, you have one, and similarly here you have one. Both cannot coexist, because when resources are theoretically absolutely adequate also, each is jockeying for a position to get the maximum resource, and in the process each develops a unique advantage by which it can displace the other, because it is competing. And the unique advantage, whichever organism can get first, they get their way and they displace, and the other organism perishes. Isn't it same in the marketplace? So I think it's a very neat kind of concept which has emerged. What happens here? These organisms which we saw here, all right, they became here, and then they won the first battle, they displaced the other, and then they grew, all right, and ultimately they multiplied, they mutated, they became complex, more complex, and biologically they became part of the food chain. Anyone knows what is a food chain? In ecobiology, tell me, what is a food chain?
It is the chain that links different organisms together, and
You mean this kind of a chain
yes,
which ties them together? Huh?
not a physical chain,
Then what?
food chain.
The food chain is a symbolic chain. I am not happy with that definition.
It's the different organisms, they rely on each other. They in turn are dependent on each other for the food supply.
Like what? Give me an example. Huh? Tell me, Prithpal, what are we discussing now? Food, something about food? Huh? Aloo paratha. Tell me, what is the food chain?
It so happens that we see the basic organism,
Huh?
the person who is fitter than the basic organism eats that organism.
Eats. Yeah.
Then the person who is more fitter
So
than
if you eat tandoori chicken, where are you on the food chain? Somewhere? Top. Right. Tandoori chicken eats something else, and so on. The same thing happens in the marketplace. If you are weak, if you haven't adjusted to the environment, you are acquired by a predatory bidder. Your company is eaten up. Okay? So the only difference is, in natural competition, which we are talking about, in natural competition, see, all this happens. The species that survives, the species that get displaced, all right, that happens by random chance. And it happens by probabilistic theory. It's random. But in the marketplace, you are dealing with organization manned by the human species. The human species are deadly species. They've got intelligence, all right, they can innovate, they are logical creatures, okay, they are aggressive. So what can they do? They can strategize. So they inject, they intervene in the process. So whereas natural competition is what drives the ecosystem, and survival of the fittest is also called the Darwinian theory. You've all heard about. Darwin wrote a monumental tome, The Origin of Species. Then he propounded this theory, survival of the fittest. So in systems which are in the marketplace, the organizational system, the business system, all right, natural selection through natural competition, all right, does not involve strategy in the ecosystem. That involves, as I said, random chance, all right, and survival, which is probabilistic. But in the sphere of business, although this is conceptually applicable, it doesn't really happen, because as I told you, we are dealing with species which are very deadly species. Did you know why it's deadly, the human species? Anyone knows? Think. So anyone who's who can think, beware of him. Deadly. Is that all? There is another thing about the human species. This is the only species who fight with each other, the same species, and kill each other and harm each other without rhyme or reason. In the animal world, we are also partly animal. They don't fight all the time. They fight for what they need and no more. They are not expansionist. They stake out a territory, they require food, and they are happy with that. Human beings are not happy. They are very aggressive, and that's probably part of the rule. Of course, they started by killing off all other species or nearly succeeding. All right, so many species are extinct. Now they are fighting against each other. So human beings have intelligence, imagination, innovation, and logic, and so they intervene in the natural selection process of the marketplace. By formulating means to gain an unique advantage. That's what survival is all about. Unique advantage for their organization, which enables them to displace others in the same business. All right. Any comments on this? Anyone who agrees, anyone who disagrees, anyone who would make any observation? No observations. So all agree? All agree. All right. The food chain has given some food for thought, hopefully. Let's see. Therefore, strategy is a process of gaining competitive advantage. That is my submission to you. Strategy, all right, is no doubt an idea, but I would like to call it process of gaining competitive advantage and winning in the marketplace. That is what strategy is about. So there is a win-lose situation here. Okay, not a win-win, win-lose situation. And you try and win by gaining some advantage. What could be a kind of advantage you strategize for? What kind of advantage? Advantage.
Increase the growth of the company, that can be
Is growth advantage? You become fat, it's a disadvantage. Market leadership. What does it mean? Market information. Price leadership. That means you charge the highest price and you get maximum profit. Innovation. That means you get a bunch of scientists who make patents and all that. Quality. Cost-effective technology. To be the first. See, look at the amount of ideas that are being generated. Economies of scale. Which means what? It means less cost. Isn't it? Again. Yeah. So look at how many things there are. If you are managing director, how are you going to make a strategic plan? What are you going to go for? All these things. Depends on the environment.
All are basically the same. One is depend on other.
So it doesn't matter what you do, one depends on the other, they are interlinked. So survive the competition. So he is taking a defensive posture. There is also defensive strategies. We learn about that, and there are aggressive strategies. Like in any war, you have to have defensive plans and you have to have offensive attack plans. Gauss's principle is in that sense equally applicable to business. This is what I say. Because you can't let down your guard. There will never be a situation where you have all resources for everyone in the marketplace to survive equally and grow equally and prosper equally. It will never happen. Therefore, always you have to be on your guard to keep on developing a strategic advantage, which is nothing but something unique to you. Something unique. Someone said is cost leadership. That means for the same product which your competitor is making, if you can make it at a lower cost and deliver the same value, You are a winner. Why? Because you have a unique advantage. But of course, life is not so simple, because there are a host of other preponderables. If you can reduce the cost, how do you know that your competitor, all right, can't bring in a new kind of a substitute product which is better than your product? So the underpinnings of your product is simply swept away. He brings a substitute and so on. There are so many other variables. But be that as it may, strategizing is an ongoing process. You can't make a strategic 5-year plan and then stop planning and only do the implementing. Remember that. In real life, a plan made has to be implemented, but side by side, you have to keep reviewing what is happening, because nothing is static in the marketplace. It is all dynamic. And you have to keep, all right, running to keep standing. Otherwise, you fall behind. So, any questions? Are you getting frightened? Because one day you have to take care of all this. If you become industry leaders, waiting for your chance, all ready to go, good. That's the right attitude. See, you must have heard of Professor Michael Porter. Huh? See, he made some seminal work on strategy. If you talk of strategy, you must talk of Michael Porter, which Professor Dey will cover more in detail. But I just thought I'll give you a peek preview of it. So, he has talked of the profitability determinants of an industry. And by profitability determinants, what he means is, in order to do well in an industry, if you are prospering, you have to be profitable. He is equating one with the other, and I think that is logical. And this is the 5 competitive forces model. He says all the time in the marketplace, you have 5 powerful forces, right, which is buffeting your organization. It's like as if you are on a sea, a fragile boat, and you have 5 forces always buffeting you, and you have to steer through that successfully and make money. So, you have the first industry yourself. Say you are making what? What would you like to make? Cars, all right. If you are in the auto industry, all right, you have competitors, and the competitors are always trying to get a unique advantage so that they can displace you, grab your market share, bring out new models. So, that is a very powerful force. Then you have suppliers. Usually we don't think of suppliers as a powerful force, do we? You do? Why? Why do you do that? Haji? Supplier's cost. He may increase the cost.
The lowest cost supplier is a competitive advantage. You can bargain and get a better price. But if you have a sole supplier, he may also keep you at your mercy.
Yeah, because a supplier is also an organization, right? He tries for unique advantage also. And one of the unique advantages, somehow if he can make his product, which is an input for you, if he can make his product into a kind of monopoly, you know. I'm giving an example. He can command a price for it, and willy-nilly you who buy his product as an intermediate for your product, you will have to pay the price. And you may not be in the fortunate position in your industry because of competitors to increase the sales price. So, moment your cost price increases, your margin starts shrinking. So, adding value, there is a definition also. It is an economist definition, but it is used by Michael Porter. Anyone has heard of the definition? What is adding value? In business we call profits, isn't it? Sales price minus cost price is equal to profit. In economics, adding value. That is, the costs, all right, which you incur in adding value should at least be more than the amount which you realize from the client. Okay. Another way that is put by finance people is that you must at least earn or by return the cost of your capital, isn't it? So that's a simpler concept. Businessmen use it all the time. When you make project reports to see, we call it a hurdle rate. That means, yeah, the amount that you are going to pay in terms of money which you give into this project, right? The earnings in some time, is it at least going to be more than if you could put it in a bank or borrow from a bank, it costs you so much. Is it at least more than that? If it is not, then there is no question of entering into it, unless there are other circumstances. There are qualitative reasons why you want to do it. It may be a strategic issue. Tactically you may lose, strategically you may gain, and so on. Then you have potential players. What is potential players? Lurking there in the background, in the shadows, is always a competitor who is not there today. He is not a player, he is not a competitor. But he may rear his ugly head tomorrow and enter into the marketplace. So that's also a very powerful force. And what encourages these potential competitors? Can you tell me? What encourages the potential competitors? Huh? Correct, dead on. A profit of the industry. If you are making dirty profits, in the sense filthy rich profits, what are you going to do? You are going to attract competition like flies to a honey pot. So, when you, if you have a nice business going, moderate your profit, because remember, if others see that your profit is very high, they will be tempted to come into the same business again. Potential players and substitutes. What is the substitutes? Obsolescence threat. What do you mean by you are making cars? How can there be obsolescence? Is there a threat? Better model. Would you say that's a substitute threat? A better model of a car? No. Why? Why? Will you defend your position? He says no. That's not us.
Which is more cost effective, more fuel efficient, more powerful.
More new car.
Ambassador has been almost replaced from the Indian market. Fiat is almost obsolete. Ambassador is almost obsolete.
Is it obsolete? What is obsolescence? What is economic obsolescence? Tell me. Okay.
That is obsolescence.
The jute bags have been replaced. We are planning for the purpose of storage.
Once upon a time they were that is an example of obsolescence.
No, if cars are not, Fiat is not.
देखिए, the word substitute is self-explanatory. If tomorrow you have a car, a transportation medium, let's not call it an automobile, right? Moving from place A to B in comfort, projecting a macho image and what have you. If you have a medium which levitates, like you see in this futuristic movies, you just sit there, close the hood and it just sails along. That may ring a death knell to the conventional automobile, however model it may be and whatever changes you may make. Or a very good example is, the plastics which came in, the polymers by way of plastics, various types of plastics. Polyethylene is practically, it has taken a huge share of business from paper. Of course, there will never be an occasion when it will be completely maybe replaced, barring few occasions. Record players obsolete. So this is one of the few. No one uses it anymore. They collect it, but they don't use it as antiques. But you think for a moment, I don't know if you are old enough, but in the old days all buckets used to be either made of pittal or aluminium, means metal, or iron with galvanizing. These were the buckets. I don't think, except in remote villages now, you will find too many of them. You might find a few, but it's mainly all plastics. Right, you have rigid PVC. Are you talking of water pipes or sewage pipes? Yeah. So there
used to be of silver or
electrical?
electrical wires. Earlier they used to be made of silver.
No, never. Wires of silver?
Yes, sir. The mixed with, there was an alloy of silver.
Huh? Maybe my electrical engineer is totally obsolete. They used to use copper. For contacts they used to make silver. You see, silver cadmium alloy for contacts, but for the basic conductor it was copper. Huh? Wait, who told you this?
So actually I've seen them.
Punjab.
Yeah, yes, I've seen them.
What kind of wires for what? I mean, I'm sorry to.
Transmission, the wires that are electrical wires that are used in transmission for it. The wiring is.
We'll discuss about it separately. I have grave doubts about this. Huh? It cannot be. I have grave doubts. It's too costly.
Yes, sir.
It's too costly. Yeah. But what has happened is, in our country, one of the few countries in the world, copper, large amounts of copper, which was used for electrical applications, mainly for conductors. Huh? That is cables, not overhead wires, but cables. Copper has been replaced in India practically by aluminium, except for some specialized application like control purposes. Control purposes, copper's conductivity is better, and for low voltages which are used for control, to have acceptable voltage drop at the receiving end of the line, copper is allowed, but otherwise it's all aluminium, all aluminium. But in switchgear etc., you have various alloys which are used for the contacts, okay, because it has more life. Anyway, coming back to substitute, substitute is also a powerful market force. You agree or you don't agree? And it has become more and more powerful because we have come into the 21st millennium, where the new kind of industries which have come, you know, the electronic industries and the information technology and the software industry, all these have got products and services, all right, which can be substituted at the drop of a hat. Today you have a good product, tomorrow the product is obsolete. Someone has brought in another product which is far more powerful, it's cheaper, and where are you? You're gone. So, buyers, suppliers, buyers, who are these buyers? Are they your purchase officers, or what does he mean by these buyers? Customers, yeah. How are they powerful? They can bargain with you. They can bargain with you. How can you get into a better bargaining position with your customer? Huh? Offer more value. How? How? No, no, let's be specific. You give him a discount, you lower the price, or what do you do?
Better features.
Promise. You think customer is so foolish? He'll pay you hard currency for a promise. He won't pay you that.
Service backup.
Well, backup is what? A promise, no? Sir, I will back up. Huh? Guarantee. Okay. But you see how interesting the situation is. There is a constant jockeying for advantage. Is it not going on in the marketplace all the time? And not along one plane, but on 5 planes. You need to manage all of them. So you have to know about the whole system, the holistic. Otherwise, you cannot manage an organization. Yes.
Sir, are not the substitute the same products of a different companies?
Substitutes products of a different company. I don't think the Porter model means that, because that is competitive product. It is not a substitute. In a sense, let us say you are selling communication equipment, right? Now here you have the wireless telephony and you have the wired telephony. One would be a substitute for the other. But if you are Tata phones or your AT&T phones, you know, the telephone instruments you are selling, one would not be called a substitute for the other. It would be a competitive product. Would anyone agree with or disagree with this? Everyone disagrees. Agrees. Right. Huh. So, bargaining power, future competition, obsolescence threat, and here also bargaining power. Suppliers and buyers are always bargaining. That's why quite often you will have sales executives make fairly good purchasing executives also, because it's two sides of the same coin. Is basically bargaining, negotiating. We have learned negotiating in some other subject, but you see how these subjects merge with each other. In this subject, strategy, organizational structures which we learned in the first semester, they become very important in strategy. In order to drive, we also had a phrase, in that subject which we learned, organizational structure and dynamics. So there we said that the strategy, will drive the structure. Did we not say so? So you will see how it drives the structure now. Things will start falling into place. Any questions on this? Okay. This is another Michael Porter's. He made two books. I think you should read that. It's part of your reading material. One is, first book he wrote was Competitive Strategy, and then he followed it up with Competitive Advantage. And I have given a third book by Pfeffer, that is Competitive Advantage through People, because people make the difference, particularly in implementation. So here he has a model here, conceptual model, and that is competitive strategy stroke advantage. So he says there are three main basic parameters here. The first is cost leadership, second is differentiation, and the third is narrow target, that is focus. Focus, you can have a cost focus or you can have a differentiation focus. So this is very broad, cost leadership and differentiation. This is a narrower target. Focus. Focus is narrow because obviously you are focusing on a part of the whole. So tell me, cost leadership. How can you achieve cost leadership? How can you achieve cost leadership? Cost is made up of what? Cost of raw materials. How would you get raw materials at a cheaper price? Bargaining.
Integrating the
In-house. Vertical integration. Backwards or forward? Backwards. It may or may not be cheaper. If you are good at it, it may be cheaper. If there are special reasons why it will cost you less. Otherwise, it may be that people who only make the material are experts in that, and he may make it at a cheaper cost or lower cost than you. Okay? What is differentiation?
How you are able to differentiate your product with the competitor's product so as to persuade the consumer to buy your product? You can do that on cost also.
Yeah. Basically says you can differentiate on cost, but that is so important a parameter that is given as a separate parameter. That is cost leadership. But differentiation is made on what basis?
product value, product gives.
Product value. Features. Like what? Give me an example. Features. How would you differentiate with features? Say an automobile. How would you differentiate?
Boot space. The boot space and easy financing of the car.
Easy financing of the car.
So there's a
You can give an easy financing, others can't give. That's how you are differentiating. Okay? What else?
the boot space in the car, the same segment is different.
Boot space in the car.
Rate of dealership,
Fuel efficiency.
more dealer features, more coverage, space.
More dealerships.
So there's recent example of anchor toothpaste, like 100% vegetarian toothpaste. So it's differentiating from the other products because the calcium which is in the toothpaste toothpaste normally comes from bones and so it doesn't use from those sources. So it is differentiating itself as a separate to gain competitive
That
advantage.
means you are trying to get a unique advantage, essentially, isn't it? Trying to strategize on the basis of getting a unique advantage, right? What about focus? Why should you focus? I mean, you should get a complete advantage over your whole spectrum of business, no? Why focus?
Unless you have to focus, you wouldn't be able to target specific portions because having a broad perspective, you will overlook certain smaller problems, which may ultimately affect your business prospects.
Anyone? Who would like to use focus as a strategy for unique advantage? Someone there? There is no problem. Problem is there are 5 forces. This is not a problem solving. This is strategizing. We saw all the 5 forces there, and you have to gain unique advantage.
So you could develop strengths like from economies of scale. Focusing only on a single product.
Focusing is more a part of tactics. It's for the short term.
I have somehow you are not convinced me. Why should you focus at all?
Sir, I can give an example.
Give examples. That's
Sir,
easier.
the automobile market when Opel entered India,
Yes.
their strength was the Opel Astra, which was in the luxury segment. In spite of the smaller segment, which consists of 800, that is the A segment, in spite of that being a bigger market, they did not enter it because their strength lay in the luxury market. So this is where they focused on one product, on one differentiation, rather than going for a mass market and then losing their advantage. So this
So-
could be one advantage in which you can play to your strength.
That was the entry strategy.
Yeah.
So they focused as an entry strategy. But later on they might change the strategy. If they have enough volumes, they may then try for cost leadership also. May.
This is to identify the main strategy driver.
Main strategy driver. But for a limited period of time. Because all this is time bound. Things keep changing.
You have to understand what the core strength is first of all. So you need to focus on that area because you have a core strength in every area.
Okay, I accept that.
So you have to focus on that area and develop upon it so that you become superior to others.
Okay.
Focus on the strength.
Focus on the strengths. Alright. Anything else on this? Then we come to strategy implementation. So basically, what we said is strategy is basically getting a unique advantage. That is what strategy is about. And then sustaining the unique advantage through successive changes in the environment. That's the name of the game. Because if you don't get it, someone else will get it and you will fall behind. So there is no luxury of a choice, whether you like it or not, whether you do it consciously or you do it unwittingly, you have to play the strategy game the moment you enter into business. Okay? Now one part of it is strategy formulation or strategy planning or strategic planning, and equally important part is strategy implementation. And what I have said here is good competitive strategy coupled with good strategy implementation gives sustainable competitive advantage. And effective implementation is a many splendored thing. Understanding of strategy by implementing people who are going to implement, implementers, committed team who will implement it, appropriate organization structure, monitoring and accountability, appropriate systems and processes, correction and review if things are going wrong, and employee development and rewards. So, it's a very, very complex thing, isn't it? Very complex. So at this stage, I think we can go over to the Ford case. Who would like to tell me what was Ford's earlier strategy and how Ford under Alex Trotman said that they have to change strategy? Ford. Before and after. What was Ford's strategy earlier?
There are two completely autonomous plants, one for the European market and one for the American market.
Autonomous plants. Huh? Division. Divisions. And later, what did they?
They organized it around products.
One at a time. Yes.
Platforms. So you could have a mid-segment segment.
Product. Would you say along products?
Not exactly product. It's a platform.
Four
One
product
platform,
development
product platform.
and one product development center.
What do you mean by product platform?
So basically,
A product group?
product mid-size.
So, product group. This is the essential difference which they did.
Initially, they believed in actually more on innovation and creative, that is bringing out new designs and new models. That was what they started off and which they pushed initially.
Also, the demand in North America and Europe, that is different for different types of cars. In Europe, they emphasize more on smaller cars, which should be more powerful, more fuel efficient. Whereas in North America, the demand was for luxury cars, bigger cars. That's why the development centers in the division North America and Europe, they were working independently of each other. And as a result, they were incurring costs in research and development and production, which were astronomical.
So, what we are saying is the strategy was driven by what earlier?
The markets.
Market? Would you agree with that?
Local market.
Markets, local. And now they are driving it by what? That means you had a market here, which is local. Now you have one market global.
They're competing against Japanese and European competitors who are producing local.
Earlier they were not competing against them.
Actually, also their strategy was to capture the.
No, I am asking, I have a doubt. Has the market changed? Do the Europeans like big cars now? Hold it, whoa. I am saying, earlier you are saying that we did on markets. The Ford company organized on a market need, because they said in Europe they are more, they like smaller cars, they like better engineered cars, the styling, what they like is better and so on. And so give the customer what they want, right? Now they could have given the customer the same thing from America, could they not?
Yes.
So why did they establish a
Earlier
division in Europe?
Earlier the strategy was that they offered a customized solution for the local market. Now they believe in developing a solution which will sell in all the markets. irrespective of, like earlier for Europe they had a separate division catering to Europe.
But why didn't they do it earlier? Because the same
That is the
decision.
competition, the dynamics of the industry permitted it. When the Japanese came in with the low cost strategies, this proved to be extremely expensive.
Okay.
Following this strategy.
So something new came in the environment, is it?
So before cost was not a major concern for them. Later they realized that they are incurring heavy losses because.
But how do you say cost was not a major concern?
Sir,
How can you theorize?
Yes.
Didn't they have General Motors? Big Daddy, who were competing with them?
It was
Didn't they
sustainable.
have Chrysler?
They had separate divisions in North America and Europe. They had redundant cost in both of them. I mean, they had duplication of work.
They did not realize until the
I agree with all you are saying. I am just trying to search for a reason. Some think tank must have sat there.
Definitely on of the Japanese who use the jet system and other TQM techniques, they were able to produce a very low cost car.
What he is saying is there is a new phenomenon which happened now, which made it necessary for them to review and re-examine this strategy of being customized solutions in terms of cars for the local needs. And new one, he says, the new threat in the environment was essentially the Japanese. Now, do we agree with that or not, having read this case? So, what was the threat? To generalize the threat was that in the competitive environment, that is that model, Porter's model, competitive forces, a new kind of force now entered, and that was a high quality, low cost kind of a competitor. Now, it could have been Japanese, can be anything, but low cost and let us say high value. Now, having said that, you mean to say that customers earlier in America, North America as well as Europe, they were not demanding low cost and high value? Are you telling me that?
They don't have much choices. They didn't have choices then.
What do you mean sellers? There were so many European and English companies there.
So the benchmark of that law was not changing. So they want lower and lower costs at the time.
That we always want, don't we?
The Japanese came with the solution which the others were not able to match.
Over into
Japanese came with the technologies which the others were not able to match.
the
Production technology.
benchmark costs. They further went.
These Japanese actually did a great service for the consumers, right? With JIT and all that, as you say. See, as I see it, in Europe, do you think there were consumers who looked for value? They were willing to pay for some value earlier. And moment you gave that value, you could charge a little premium for that because the customer is willing to pay for that. Yes or no? But now what has happened? They are no longer willing to pay because the same value is being delivered at a lower cost. So essentially, as I see it from this case, and I hope you agree, they had a cost problem on their hands. Because the cost of manufacture had become high as compared to this new competitor, the Japanese who came in, who were giving good value equal to theirs, but the cost was apparently lower. Apparently. Why do I say apparently? It is not easy for you to know a competitor's cost. What do you see all the time? You see his net price, isn't it? That's public domain. You know the net price. You don't know his cost. But if the public domain, his balance sheet, you study and see he is making healthy profit, you can safely conclude his cost must be lower than yours because at a lower price he is making better profits. So you can deduce it, although you don't get it directly. You can deduce his costs. Okay. So it is a cost really which became a threat to Ford company. And then they started thinking how to counter this threat.
So I have a doubt.
Yes.
You mentioned the Japanese entry into European market led to Ford restructuring its strategy.
Never is it mentioned.
It's mentioned.
No. Is it? Read it out. Read it out. Yeah.
The company's reorganization combines European and North American automotive operations in one unit.
Hmm.
By integrating these one separate divisions into a single unit, Trotman hopes to transform Ford into a much more nimble company that can compete with fast-moving Japanese and other competitor companies.
Is the doubt clear or no?
What I think is
Nimble. I mean, he doesn't say that Japanese are giving lower cost, but I think it's a safe assumption. What does he mean by nimble? Means they are faster than you are, more efficient. So the implication is they are less costly.
Excuse me, you mean to say only Ford was overcharging them before the customer?
No. Ford was not overcharging. Ford was charging a fair amount. But what has happened, someone else comes forward and says, look, I can give you the same value at a lower price. So the customer says, all right. Yes. Hmm.
What we're talking about low cost, what Ford realized,
Hmm.
this was basically due to their organizational, the structure of the organization which they had. Since they had two various autonomous working divisions in
Okay, can we take a 5-minute break now
Yeah, sure.
and then resume the discussion on this? All right?